Hi guys, having searched pretty much the entirety of the internet, I've compiled a list on the 5 best theories on how All Might eventually dies. I read a lot of theories to get to this point, and I gotta say, these ones stood out to me the most by far, especially the number one. This video contains no spoilers for the anime, it's simply just hypothetical theories that could end up happening, so anime only viewers, you are safe. But quickly before we begin, if you love My Hero Academia, please subscribe to this channel. I have a ton of other My Hero Academia lists. Also, something I've been doing recently, anyone who shares this video on Twitter or social media, your username is automatically included in the end credits of my next video. So yeah, please share this video. Because the number one theory that I picked is so good, I'm actually going to do things differently this week and start from first place and work our way down. So the number one theory on this list is without a doubt the most messed up, but it actually stays within the bounds of what we could realistically expect to happen. I'm not joking. When I initially read this theory, I got goosebumps. Coming from a Reddit commenter whose name is way too difficult to pronounce, the number one theory as to how All Might eventually dies is that he's turned into a Nomu and Deku and Bakugo are going to be the ones to kill him for the greater good. This honestly gave me the chills because it's a possibility so dark, All Might being turned into basically an ugly version of Frankenstein, or even uglier version, serving the League of Villains. It would probably be the worst way for the symbol of peace to go out. And I don't even need to explain how much Deku loves this guy. I mean, Deku's love for All Might probably runs deeper than it does for his own father, whoever the hell that is. And as if that wasn't enough, in one of my favorite episodes, which is episode 12 of season 2, we saw a flashback as to how Bakugo literally modeled his belief system, his way of viewing life, off of All Might. All Might is both an idol and a mentor to both these boys. So the idea that they would have to kill him, and not only just kill him, but kill him in Nomu form, is actually sickening. I personally don't like the idea of All Might being, captured, tortured, turned into a creature, and then forced to, destroy or hurt civilians. That's something he would never obviously do normally. It would definitely leave a very bitter taste in the mouth, but I believe it is definitely still plausible. Now that he's a civilian, he can't defend himself from these type of threats. This theory absolutely deserved the number one spot, so credit to the user who came up with this, but please Horikoshi, do not do this to us. Do not do this. At second place on the list, we have the theory that I definitely saw repeated the most often. I saw multiple variations of it, so I can't really attribute it to one user. But at number 2, we have Shigaraki being the one to kill All Might. In my personal view, I truly believe that with everything we've seen, this is the most plausible scenario. However, there are multiple ways that it can actually go down. One example that caught my attention was the theory that All Might reveals to Shigaraki that Shigaraki's grandmother is the one who gave All Might his power. This in turn could lead to Shigaraki basically freaking out and killing All Might by accident. This theory is especially plausible given that the revelation would show Shigaraki that he's basically been a pawn in All For One's grand plan. Over time, I do believe that All For One does genuinely care about Tomura Shigaraki. However, from Shigaraki's perspective, it would make things painfully obvious that All For One, finding him and nurturing him to be his successor, it wasn't simply a coincidence, but rather a calculated decision to mess with All Might. And anyway, in Shigaraki's confusion, it is highly probable to me that he would touch All Might by accident, or indeed on purpose to make him stop talking perhaps. But, we'll just see what happens. Hopefully he doesn't die until Deku graduates at least. The next theory was so powerful that I don't actually think putting it into my own words would do it justice, so I'm just going to read it out and then I'm going to give my take after. So the initial theory comes from a Reddit user whose name is Crowopolis. I think I said that right. And the post itself is 2 years old. Now the bit of the post that interests me was this. The climax will mirror how the story began. All Might will come across an incident where no one is taking action and someone's life is at risk. He will just tell himself over and over again, there's nothing I can do, I'm not a hero anymore. But then he will see the look on the person's face. His body will move without him realizing, and he'll try to save the person because it looked like they were asking for help. It would be the perfect kind of parallel, how the heroic spirit that exists in both Deku and All Might spurred them to action before and after they had their quirk. We do know that All Might has been incredibly unwell ever since his first fight with All For One. He's been coughing up blood since basically the first episode. So if he were to run into action like this, he'd probably end up in the hospital and eventually pass away with loved ones by his side. I imagine Deku has to be there, probably followed by Recovery Girl, Aizawa, Principal Nezu, maybe a few other characters like Mirio around him. I imagine he not only tells Deku how proud he is of him, but that he's sorry he won't be able to see him become the hero he's meant to be, something along those lines. And then getting to the main thing, what I would love to see him do is say to Deku, never stop smiling. At this point, Deku's probably got a massive frown on his face, and just before All Might dies, he looks Deku in the eyes and gives him the classic All Might massive grin, before dying right there. So at 4th place on the list is the theory that All Might is killed by All For One. I actually think this theory is quite unlikely to ever happen. If you recall the battle in Kamino, All For One pretty much said, you know, this is what I've groomed Shigaraki to do. He has to be the one to do it, but if you want to fight me, then I'll do it. The thing that made the battle in Kamino so great, apart from obviously the awesome dialogue where All For One used All Might's catchphrase,
I'm coming for you!
I don't think so, because I am here.
The best thing about the battle, apart from all that, was that All For One and All Might were almost evenly matched. That's what made it so interesting. You didn't know what was going to happen. And in fact, many people at the time thought that All Might was going to die there and then. So to have the symbol of peace be simply killed in his weakened state, the only way I see this being interesting is if All Might is captured, right? All For One is out of jail and tells Shigaraki to kill All Might, but just as Shigaraki is about to kill All Might tells him the truth about his grandma, and then Shigaraki hesitates or maybe refuses to kill All Might because he needs time to, you know, process the information, and in a fit of rage, All For One uses his air cannon to send All Might flying into a wall. This would be even better if just as All Might is about to smash into the wall, the heroes break in to save All Might just as he's flying through the air, and then Deku maybe uses full cowling to reach All Might but doesn't make it in time. That would be quite reminiscent of the scene in The Amazing Spider-Man 2 where Spider-Man just fails to save Gwen Stacy. Those deaths are always the most heartbreaking for heroes when they were like so close to saving someone and couldn't do it. I think something like that would make it very interesting. Otherwise, it's kind of boring because it would be the third fight between All For One and All Might, and this time is kind of an unfair fight. And finally, in 5th place, we have the death that All Might deserves. And that prediction is this: dying of old age, surrounded by loved ones in a villain-free society. Being realistic, the mentor to the main character almost never goes out peacefully. Even All Might himself had to see his mentor being killed when he was only 18. But given that everything All Might's done for society, this would definitely be the most fitting end. I'm going to go into minor spoiler territory here, so if you're anime only, please subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next week. For those of you that don't mind, I personally think that with Eri's rewind quirk, she could rewind All Might's body back to the time before his first fight with All For One. This would erase the injury to his stomach and perhaps enable him to live the rest of his life in a normal manner. I doubt this rewind would give him back the power of One For All. Obviously, you can't take it from Deku, and I doubt there could be 2 One For Alls existing simultaneously. That would be really cool though. That would be awesome, but I don't think that will happen. Either way, the introduction of Eri allows for the possibility of All Might actually dying of old age rather than everything else we've talked about. I think in All Might's Small Might form, he is too vulnerable for the possibility of dying of old age. And there you have it. That was the list of the top 5 theories of how All Might eventually dies. I encourage you to let me know if you have any alternative theories that you think maybe deserves a place on this list. And please like it if you had a good time with this video, and also check out my last few videos. Massive shout out to everyone on the screen right now. Everyone that you're currently seeing on screen either tweeted or retweeted my last video. I can't let you know how much I appreciate that. You know, it spreads the word. Thank you to everyone who shared my last video. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll catch you later.